This is Philip. Today we're picking and processing apples on our mini farm. On our mini farm we have two varieties of apples. We actually have about 6 trees. We have two varieties of apples. There's Pristine, which gets ripe about midsummer, and then there's Liberty, which comes later in the fall. Today we are picking the Pristine apples. So on our mini farm we use one of these little tracked machines. It's kind of like a power wheelbarrow type thing. This one's actually kind of like a miniature dump truck on tracks. It's pretty cool. The company that made it actually, I guess they went out of business. I can't get a hold of them, but anyway, it's a pretty neat machine. There's a lot of companies that make a very similar product. These things are great on any type of mini farm situation. So the way we harvest, we have these blue totes that we use, and then as we get those full, we'll pick them up with our mini track machine and take them down to the house for processing. We also put the apples directly in the bed of our mini track machine as we go. Sometimes that's more convenient. We run out of totes and end up having to use both the totes as well as the bed of the track machine, and so that helps us get it done quicker. We'll load our track machine and the totes several times. We'll get several bushels out of just these 3 trees. It's really amazing how much we get. So years ago when we bought this place, this area had a wet weather spring, and every time it would rain it would get very wet and mushy. You couldn't even walk through the area. Well, we wanted to have an orchard, so we planted, let's see, there were 8 apple trees, 4 pear trees, some pawpaws, raspberries, blackberries, and grapes. And we planted those in the wet weather spring, the apple trees first, and they've actually dried up the area so nicely. However, the trees are huge. They're not very old. I mean, they're not like gigantic, but like for their age, they're huge. Other people that I know have trees of the same age, and they're like not even half the size of ours. Showing the stump of the tree here, it's actually hard to tell on camera, but this is quite large. This trunk is about 8 inches in diameter, maybe a little more, and the trees are only maybe 10 years old. So our apples are organically grown. We don't use any sprays, pesticides, chemicals of any kind, no chemical fertilizers. And so this is kind of a average size of the apple. They're not gigantic, but that's more of a normal apple size. And I imagine, you know, we could get them to grow a little bigger if we did a little more to the trees. We don't really do a whole lot to them, but yeah, that's an average size for an organically grown apple, at least on our mini farm. Okay, so the way to pick an apple is, well, when it's nice and yellow, it's ripe. If they're ripe, you give it a little bit of a twist. You'll go about almost all the way around, and they just pop off. That's an apple that's ready. And they're organically grown. They're all different sizes, and they'll be ready at the same time. It's not like in a grocery store where they're all the same. Those have been sorted. These have not been sorted on the tree, obviously. They come off all different sizes. That one probably could have waited a little bit. This one, just a little twist, and they come right off. Some even fall down while you're picking the others. So we keep our trees short enough that we don't have to get into them with ladders and all kinds of special equipment. We intentionally keep them short. Sometimes we do have to stand on some things, but we try to keep them short so they're manageable. That way they're easier to take care of. A shorter tree, everything stays closer together. We seem to actually get more apples than having a huge tree. And yeah, you get more apples than you do on a great big huge tree by keeping it short. Just have to learn how to prune it. There's all kinds of articles all over the internet, absolutely free. There's books available. Around our trees, underneath our trees, all throughout where our trees are, we have this black landscape fabric on the ground underneath the trees. And we find that that helps greatly because we don't have to mow it, and it makes it very easy to take care of. One thing you'll notice is that apple trees naturally drop a lot of apples on the ground throughout the season, and we drop some while we're picking as well. And these will all get used up, thrown in for chicken feed for the chickens. They won't go to waste. So they do make harvest baskets that go on your front to do this, but for me, a simple way, our trees are so short, and I just use my work clothes, put them in my shirt, and that's where I collect the apples as I pick. Now whenever you unload them into the cart, you're really not supposed to just drop your apples. They'll bruise, they'll go bad. These might sit around for a day or so or two until they get processed. So the way you're supposed to do is let them don't let them drop any more than they have to. Just kind of gently roll them out and put them where they go. That's how much we've gotten off of the first tree. We got one load of our little transporter, and we'll have to process these before picking any more. All right, we're inside the house processing our apples. Step one, of course, we wash them in a sink. And then the next step, we cut them, cut out any bad spots. And then we cut them up and put them in a bowl to be cooked. After that, we cook them down. After that, we do run them through the blender, and then we add some sugar in there somewhere, and then we have applesauce ready to put in jars for canning.
When you cook apples, you stick the apples in here and then you pour enough water to just cover the bottom. This one has 1.5 cups of water in it, and then you turn on heat about medium, and then you let it cook, and you gotta stir it so that it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot. And then once they get nice and soft and squishy, you can stick them in the blender to mix them.
Yeah, so this is a family affair here. This is not just me doing all this. It's my whole family's involved, my wife and all my children. Children under the age of 13 are not supposed to be on YouTube, apparently, and so you don't see them in this film. But my 2 teenagers and myself you're seeing. But it's a whole family involved in this, and everybody's got their own station. And we're all having a ball doing this together. So what do we do from here? This has been boiled down. Now it's in the blender. You just shovel it in.
Yeah. And then I mix it up till it's in a nice pasty consistency. And then I pour it into the bowl.
All right.
And then I stick it in jars.
Of course, I'm the official taste tester as well, so here we go. Ooh, that's good. Good warm applesauce, hot off the stove. I don't know if we're gonna jar this one. Alright, so we have a little camp stove. We do all our canning outside. It keeps the heat out of the house. It's real nice. The house stays cooler this way. Keep the heat outside when it's hot outside. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us out with the YouTube algorithm and helps that other people get to see these videos more often. Getting ready to boil. For processing today, and it'll take the better part of the day, probably be about end of the day by the time we get done. And like I say, that's just our first tree. We have 3 more, or no, 2 more just like that to process in the next week here, and then we'll have 3 more to do this fall. And here is the fruits of our labor, all our jars of applesauce.